Hi, today I'm talking about the singer Marvin Gaye, who died in 1984 at the age of 44. Marvin Gaye was an American singer and songwriter who was nicknamed Prince of Motown and Prince of Soul. He could sing in 3 vocal ranges: falsetto, middle tenor, and in a deep growl. He was born Marvin Pence Gaye Jr. on the 2nd of April 1939 in Washington, D.C., to Marvin Gaye Sr. and Alberta Gaye, whose maiden name was Cooper. His father was a church minister and his mother is described as a domestic worker. He had an elder sister, Jean, born in 1937, a younger brother, Francis, known as Frankie, born in 1941, and a younger sister, Zuola, born in 1945. He also had 2 half-brothers, Michael Cooper, who was his mother's son from a previous relationship, and who was born in 1933, and Antoine Carey Gaye, who was his father's son from an extramarital affair, who was born in 1970. Marvin had a very unhappy home life. His father was a preacher in the House of God Church, but was abusive to his children. Marvin's sister Jean said Marvin was whipped from the age of 7 until he was in his teens. Jean stated that her siblings and herself weren't allowed to talk back or strike their father. He would say that he had brought them into this world and he could take them out. His father also drank and indulged in cross-dressing. He would wear his wife's clothes. Marvin started singing in church. He developed a love for it and actively pursued it. This was his way of temporarily escaping from his unhappiness. When he was 17, he enlisted in the Air Force, but didn't stay long. According to a biographer, he pretended to be suffering from a mental illness to get discharged. He then was a member of musical groups. He composed music, was a session singer, and played the drums for various people, including Stevie Wonder. In 1960, he met Motown president Berry Gordy when he performed at his house. He signed him to his label. Marvin married Anna Gordy, Berry's sister, in 1963. He added a letter E to the end of his surname, as his original name was spelled Gay. He found success. In 1964, he recorded a duet album with Mary Wells called Together. He had solo success with the single How Sweet It Is to Be Loved by You. He recorded It Takes Two with Kim Weston in 1965. It reached number 4 on the Billboard Soul Singles Chart, number 14 on the Billboard Pop Charts, and it was Marvin's first big hit in the UK, where it reached number 16 in the British Singles Chart. Marvin had success recording duets with Tammy Terrell, with the songs such as Ain't No Mountain High Enough, You're All I Need to Get By, Ain't Nothing Like the Real Thing, Your Precious Love, and the Onion Song. Poor Tammy died of a brain tumour at the age of 24 in 1970. Her death affected Marvin greatly. Marvin's song, I Heard It Through the Grapevine in 1968, was his first number 1 on the Billboard Hot 100 and was a hit internationally as well. He was deeply affected by the events going on at the time, and so he wrote the socially conscious and political album What's Going On, which was released in 1971. He wrote it in response to the Vietnam War, which his brother Frankie served in, also because of the 1967 race riots and the Kent State shootings, where 4 students were shot and 9 others injured by the Ohio National Guard when they were staging a peaceful protest regarding the Vietnam War, and the assassinations of Reverend Martin Luther King Jr. and Robert Kennedy, both in 1968. That album created 2 more hit singles, Mercy Mercy Me, The Ecology, and Inner City Blues. Here is Reverend Martin Luther King Jr. In 1973, Marvin released his Let's Get It On album. The single of the title track was Marvin's second number 1 on the Billboard Hot 100. I didn't realise this, but he acted in 2 movies. First in 1969 in the movie The Ballad of Andy Crocker, and Chrome and Hot Leather in 1971. Anna and Marvin divorced in 1977. He then married Janice Hunter in the same year. They had 2 children, Nona and Frankie. The marriage ended in 1981. He also had a son, Marvin Gaye III, born in 1965, which he and Anna adopted, and whose biological mother was Anna's niece, Denise Gordy. There is a query over the child's paternity and a rumour that Marvin was the biological father. Marvin's album, Midnight Love, was his final studio album and his best-selling album with over 3 million copies sold. It produced the single Sexual Healing, which was released in September 1982. It was a huge hit and won Marvin 2 Grammys for Best Male R&B Vocal Performance and Best R&B Instrumental Performance at the Grammy Awards in February 1983. In 1996, Marvin achieved the Grammy Lifetime Achievement Award posthumously. Here he is with guitarist Gordon Banks. In an interview the year before his death, Marvin admitted that he had tried to kill himself in 1979 in Hawaii by ingesting cocaine to overdose on it. He told the interviewer that he was depressed most of the time. In 1969 he had also tried to shoot himself but was stopped by Berry Gordy. According to a biography called Divided Soul, The Life of Marvin Gaye by David Ritz, his sister Jean said 4 days before his death, Marvin tried to end his life by jumping out of a speeding car, but he only suffered minor injuries. Marvin was living at the family home at 2101 South Gramercy Place, Western Heights in the West Adams district of Los Angeles, California. Marvin had bought the property for his parents, and along with his siblings he was living there after his Sexual Healing tour had ended. However, it wasn't a happy home, which led to his sisters moving out. His brother Frankie was living in the guest house next door with his Scottish wife Irene. There had been days of arguments as a missing insurance certificate couldn't be found. Tempers were raised and Marvin Sr. blamed his wife Alberta for losing it. Tensions had been high between Marvin and his dad for a period of time. Marvin was addicted to cocaine and there were drug dealers constantly visiting the house. On the morning of April the 1st, the day before Marvin's 45th birthday, there was another argument between the 2 Marvins. The singer hit the old man and kicked him when he fell to the ground. Alberta rushed in and pulled them apart. She and her son returned to his bedroom. A few minutes later, Marvin Sr. came in with his Smith & Wesson .38 caliber pistol and shot his son in the chest, then stepped closer and fired a second bullet into his shoulder when he had fallen off the bed onto the floor. He then hid the gun under his pillow. On hearing the gunshots, Marvin's brother Frankie Gaye ran into the house. His wife Irene called the paramedics. They refused to enter until the gun's whereabouts was known. Irene found it under the pillow and threw it out onto the lawn. 20 minutes had passed between the time the paramedics had arrived and gained access to the house. Marvin was taken to the emergency room of the California Hospital Medical Center and was pronounced dead on arrival at 1:01 p.m. He had grown paranoid and thought his life was in danger due to his cocaine use. And what is interesting is the fact that the Christmas before his death, Marvin had given his father a gun as a present, the one that he killed him with. It is thought he gave him the gun in case there were intruders in the house. So did Marvin entice his father to kill him because he couldn't do it himself? A benign tumour was found on the base of Marvin's father's brain when he was examined in prison. He also displayed lots of bruises caused by the altercation with his son. He was charged with murder but was allowed to plead guilty to voluntary manslaughter due to the physical fight and his age. He was 70 years old. He only received a 6-year suspended sentence, 5 years of probation, and banned from drinking and possessing a gun for the remainder of his life. It was thought that Marvin Sr. was jealous of the close relationship between Marvin and his mother, and that he was jealous of his success. I don't have a copyright-free photo of him, but you can find his photos on the internet. Marvin Sr. moved into the Inglewood retirement home. Alberta divorced him after 49 years of marriage. Alberta founded the Marvin Gaye Jr. Memorial Foundation to help people suffering from alcoholism and drug addiction. She died 3 years after the shooting of bone cancer in 1987. Marvin Sr. died of pneumonia in 1998. There is a possibility Marvin's fears over attempts on his life were real. He owed money to various people, including over $1 million in back taxes. He was a great star with a beautiful voice. He sold over 12 million albums. He was cremated and his ashes were scattered in the Pacific Ocean. In his book, Marvin Gaye, My Brother, Frankie Gaye said that while he was holding him as he was dying, Marvin said, "I got what I wanted. I couldn't do it myself, so I made him do it." Another twist to it is he died on the 1st of April, April Fool's Day. Perhaps he had picked that day purposely. His father had fired the gun, but Marvin had set it up. So do you think he deliberately set his father up to do it? Let me know in the comments below. If you like this video, please like, share, subscribe, press the notification bell, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!